Hi, I'm Trooper Smacka.
Hi, I'm Trooper Wellman,
Please stay tuned for a behind-the-scenes look at being a state trooper.
and together we can make a difference.
Here we are live at the 360 Vegas studios with Trooper Wellman, and she's brought a guest, Sergeant Clifton.
Correct.
Yeah, so you've never been on TV or Trooper Talk before,
Not
right?
Trooper Talk before now.
Okay, so tell us who you are. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
All right, I am Sergeant Chris Clifton. I work for the State Police Division of Parole and Probation. What we do with parole and probation is we supervise offenders who have committed crimes and sentenced to probation, which is before you go to prison, or if you don't go to prison, or parole, which is after you go to prison. So it's community supervision where we provide you resources to hopefully change your life and change your criminal attitudes, either through avoiding prison or that sanction and then going out on parole once you're done.
And like you can look, right? He's got a big smile and like a bubbly personality and all this, right? But here's the thing. You see people at their worst and you try to get them better.
Right.
Right? And so it takes a special person to be able to do that, right?
Oh yeah. So our job is half social worker, half law enforcement, right? So on one hand, if you're caught with drugs or a gun, something like that, you're going to jail. Absolutely, any day of the week, right? If you have so many dirty drug tests, yeah, you're going to jail. But we do drug tests so we know if you need counseling. So if you come into our office and you test dirty for methamphetamine one time, right, you're going to get a referral for drug counseling, right? And we're going to send you to counseling and try and get you off those drugs, because those drugs are likely what caused you to have a crime in the first place, right? So we have to work with people. We have to give them what they need to be successful, right? That can be finding a job, getting a GED, even getting a college degree sometimes, right? We do those things. We have resources that the offenders can get right in our office. And from that, like you said, it takes a special person, absolutely, right? Like, you have to have that attitude. You can't just be the guy who walks and says, I'm going to arrest everyone, because we don't do that. We don't arrest everyone. Our job is to help people. Our job in law enforcement, right? Everyone says they want to be a cop because they want to change people's lives. It's literally our job to change people's lives. And that's so rewarding when you get those success stories and people are like, man, you changed my life. You saved my life. And honestly, sometimes it makes you really emotional. It makes you happy. It makes you sad, right? And it's a fantastic career.
We love the parole and probation, right? We had now Captain Munoz, right? Come on and, talk about the hope for prisoners, right? And, the thing is that every time we talk on the Trooper Talk, sometimes people get in a situation where it's a bad situation and you have to put the handcuffs on. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And so, but there's the opposite side of that too, right?
Yeah, ultimately we took an oath to uphold the law, right? And sometimes we are put in situations where we have to take action. And we're okay with that if that means protecting and serving our community. But ultimately with parole and probation, what Sergeant Clifton is saying is they're all about rehabilitating these individuals back into society for success. And we're never, just like Captain Munoz always says, we're never going to arrest our way to safer communities. So that's not the goal, is to keep arresting people or individuals and putting them, in jail. That's not going to help anything. So we know as an agency that the quickest and the most efficient way to help individuals in our community to be successful and to not make, those bad choices, or maybe get on the right track and get a job, get their GED, be able to provide for their families, that's going to be through us. We are one of the bridges to help them get there, and we're very proud to do it. Like, we're very happy to do it.
Yeah, and so you're a sergeant, but the people that are underneath you, they're officers.
Correct, yeah.
Right? So we have Officer McClarty, right, who does the recruitment, but the thing is that he's an officer for the parole and probation, right?
He is, yeah.
All right. So here's what I want you to do. Okay. I want you to look into this camera with that big smile and tell everybody to go to NevadaStatePolice.com if they need a job and they want to work with you, because you can see in your eyes what people feel. And so it's very important. Tell everybody.
All right. So if you're interested in having a job with parole and probation, you need to go to NevadaStatePolice.com and apply now, where you can be the difference in your community. You can be the change. And aside from, yes, arresting people, but you also get to be that person who they can come to for problems and they can come to for solutions. And you make a true difference in your community by doing that.
Great. All right. Normally we tape a little bit earlier, but today we were a little bit delayed. Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell us where you were. I'm very interested to know about this, and so tell us what's happening.
Well, this morning, we got up very, very early to get down to Toshiba Plaza because the Vegas Golden Knights, tonight, they may take the cup. And, you know, they're going to be the second professional team here in town to possibly have that title, a champion. So we went down there with some of our media partners, and we wanted to shoot some PSAs because although we want everyone to have fun tonight and celebrate, if we get to celebrate, we just need to do it responsibly. And, you know, we have extra patrol on standby because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if people, we anticipate as many people inside T-Mobile is going to be outside T-Mobile. So we're just trying to prepare for the best and the worst. And we're working side by side with all of our law enforcement agencies. But ultimately, I think you could say collectively everyone is just absolutely thrilled with, you know, we want the Vegas Golden Knights to win. Right? We want to win.
Everyone's freaking out.
Just be safe.
And you weren't here last week, but we talked all about the cars, you know, how they're wrapped and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, all right. So now's the part where we go into some pictures. Now, let me tell you the deal, okay? When we first started Trooper Talk, we just used to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. But the problem was that it just wasn't as meaningful. Mm-hmm. And so what we found is that one of the ways that we can stop people from doing the wrong way driving and the drinking and driving is to have pictures like Trooper Wellman shows me of people's shoes.
Shoes.
A person's shoe is a person's life who is not on the planet anymore because they made a conscious decision to do something. Okay? And so what I will tell you is the purpose of Trooper Talk is to not only save lives, okay, but the thing is that we want to talk about what makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay? When you have to pull your firearm, when you have to do things that you don't want to do. And so I get the chills because it's the truth. And so we talk about that to make sure that nobody ever puts you into that position. And so that's why we show some of the pictures, okay? Yeah. All right.
Oh, yeah.
The fatal on I-15 at Tropicana closed due to an auto-verse pedestrian crash. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. The other day, I was driving on the road, and there was like a barrier, and the guy was just on the freeway and just going to get off the freeway like a person and go around the barrier, right? Like he was near, you know? So, like, you can't call for that because the guy's going to be gone and that's the end of it, right? But it was right after this. Like, and so what people need to realize is that this is someone's life who is not here anymore. Talk to us about this.
You know, one life lost is too many. We always say that. And it's the truth. Just in March alone, we had 33 pedestrian fatalities out of 107. As of, that was the end of May, because we're in June now. At the end of May, we had 33 fatalities that were pedestrian related out of 107. Majority of them could have been prevented, and that's, I tell you all the time, is what's so devastating and frustrating. For example, this situation, we may never know why, but this individual was trying to cross the highway. The highway is no place for anyone to be except motor vehicles, because we have cars traveling at minimum 65 miles an hour. And this individual not only tried to cross the highway, but he tried to cross when it was dark outside, and you can't even see, you know, because the lighting, it's just, you know, it's not well lit. And you know, we've later found out that this individual is actually nationally known in the UK as a very famous rugby player. and it was, I don't know for certain, but I believe he was here for a bachelor party. So, you know, he had a future. He was going to get married. He played sports professionally. It was a life. And when you put a story behind these individuals, you know, it hits harder, and then you relate to these individuals and you think about your family, your loved ones. That could have been us. And it's just devastating. And I sent you this picture, and as well as I posted it, but of the shoe, because again, like, that's a life lost, and it's just, it didn't need to happen. You know, I don't know why he was crossing that highway, and again, we may never know that answer, but it's devastating because not only was his life lost, but there was a semi-truck that was involved as well as a Hyundai car, and both of those drivers are now they are changed forever. You know, who knows if they can even drive again, because they may always have post-traumatic stress disorder, and we offered them resources to help with what just occurred and process it, but ultimately their lives are forever changed, as well as, you know, this man's family. It's just devastating.
We talk about how many traumatic things a normal person sees versus how many you see when you're in law enforcement, right? So we know that it's 10 times, 15 times, 20 times, you know, that you would see versus what we would see, right? This person made a choice, whatever it might have been, to cross, right? But what he didn't realize was the people that were involved, like you said, are never going to be the same, right? It's not like, oh, maybe they'll think about it and they'll not, right? Like, you have images in your mind, okay, that will never leave. And so those are the things that put you to sleep at night. Unfortunately, it's not the good things. Talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we deal with a lot, is the both with our staff and with our offenders, is the mental health aspect of things, right? Where just because something happens to you doesn't mean you can fight your way through it. Doesn't mean you can just be a tough guy and be done, right? Sometimes you need to talk to someone, right? Sometimes you have a breaking point. That happens, right? There's things that I've seen over my career, or that I've done, right, that just resonate in my mind, right? I can think of one in particular where we had a guy on for stalking. He's on parole for stalking. He tried to burn a lady's house down, basically, that he was dating. And this woman calls me out of the blue. I'm just the supervisor over her officer. And she's like, hey, I saw my stalker. And I'm like, okay. We searched his house 4 times looking for a gun. She's like, I know he has a gun. I know he has multiple cell phones. We found none of it, right? We searched his house 4 times, right? And she comes into the office. I'm giving her resources. I'm like, hey, you need to go to Safe Fest. You need to go to Shade Tree, right? 2 days later, after she's sitting in my chair, she's dead. He shot and killed her. Where was his gun? Where were these phones? We couldn't find any of it, right? We did our part, but it burns in your mind, right? Like, why did she have to die? And those are the things that, yeah, we struggle with that, right? That it's never going to leave my mind. And scenes like this shoe, it's so powerful, right? The average trooper, officer, whoever, they're going to see that. And yeah, you might just not think of it, but you might wake up one day and say, the shoe, right? It might wake you up. I mean, I've never done traffic enforcement like this, but even that, just sitting here looking at that, it's hard to think about, right? That is someone's life in a shoe.
Right.
So, I every time I drive the valley, whether it's in my personal vehicle or my patrol car, as I drive the valley, it's almost like a movie, but it's like as I pass certain exits on the freeway, I visualize, oh, there was that crash, oh, there was that incident, oh, there was that fatal, or that, and it just all like blurs together. So like every time I drive past 15 Flamingo, I think of the last pedestrian that was struck just a few months ago and how the highway was closed for 8 hours. If you remember, it was a very horrific scene. And then now, as I go down the next exit to Tropicana, I'll think of this individual because you just think of all these different calls for service that you've dealt with, and as you drive past the locations, you just are constantly reminded of like what could have happened. And then, you know, as the cars are going by, it's just like life goes on. It's just crazy, but
it's something that is very powerful that we talk about on the Trooper Talk, right? Because we want people to feel so that they, you know, I mean, please, if you're intoxicated, I don't know if he was, and I'm not saying he was, but I'm just saying if you're under the influence of anything, you know, please like use the pedestrian bridge, call someone, you know. I mean,
so June, you know, we always talk about joining forces. So June actually kicked off our joining forces for pedestrian safety and awareness. So we joined forces with all of our surrounding agencies to bring awareness and for pedestrian safety. And our biggest thing is it's a two-way street, and it's the responsibility of the pedestrian to make sure that they're crossing at well-lit areas, a designated crosswalk, make sure the traffic control device is activated and telling you now it's your turn. And then a great suggestion is always, if you can, make sure, like before you cross, make sure the traffic is actually yielding to you, because they may not yield to you and you're crossing even though you have the right of way. Maybe they don't see you. If you can, make eye contact. And then the other side, the flip side, is the motoring public. You have a responsibility to yield to these pedestrians as well. This situation would warrant that the pedestrian is obviously not crossing a designated crosswalk, and these drivers did do everything they could in their ability. But I'm just talking in general. Let's say you're driving down the street and there's a crosswalk and the lights are flashing, or there's no lights and there's an individual that wants to cross. You have to yield to them. They have the right of way. So it's everybody's responsibility for pedestrian safety. So just please be aware and alert at all times while driving. If you're looking down at that phone or at your radio, you're not going to see when that pedestrian's crossing. Yeah. And then you could find yourself in a situation, you know, not too familiar with this or similar to this.
And the so you're not allowed to walk on the freeway, right?
Absolutely not.
You're not allowed to ride a two-wheel bicycle on the freeway, right? The moped, right, or something of that nature.
If it does not exceed speeds of 55 miles an hour, as well as a certain type of motor, then no.
Okay, and so that's what we have to take away from this as well. That we can't do this, but that, you know, that this type of activity can't be on the freeway. Yes. That there's other.
So if you're in a rural area where there is no designated other means of getting to and from a location for like a sidewalk or a pedestrian bridge, then you are able to walk on a highway. But I'm talking again like rural past. For a good example would be the 15 in Apex past there. Now you're out in the desert area and there is no designated sidewalks.
Oh, okay, yeah,
so
like out in the middle of the...
Correct. So you can walk in the desert, you can walk on the side of the highway, but that is not to include a travel lane. Do not walk in a travel lane. No. But this example here, a very urban, populated area, no. There is pedestrian bridges, there's sidewalks you can get to and from. There's no, you cannot be on the highway.
And this chokes you up, you can see it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so, like, you know, not that we want to choke you up, but you know what I'm saying?
The purpose of the photos is to shock the conscience ultimately, and seeing is believing. And as much as it hurts me to post this, because I don't want to disrespect the family of the deceased, but we post it so that others will hold on to these images and think twice before crossing a highway or, you know, getting behind the wheel impaired, because that could be you.
100%. 100%. And we deal with a lot of tourists. You know what I mean? That we need that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. This is what happens when you drive reckless and evade the police. So we obviously, we love our towing partners, right? You know what I mean? Like, without the towing partners, then, you know, we're not in business, and we unfortunately lost one of them.
Oh,
right,
Ryan,
to the driving
over,
and stuff like this, right?
So driver.
We have the move over law. I saw a trooper pull somebody over on the 15 the other day, and I will tell you that it was fantastic because everybody started to slow down and move over.
Good.
Gave him enough, or her, I don't know who it was, but it gave the officer, the trooper, enough room to conduct business, right? So, you know, it was really cool to see. You know, but then again, once they're out of there, then the floodgates are on, and you know what I mean? But well, you know, so this is a nice car. So what's going on?
Yeah. And this individual was a very stand-up citizen, no criminal record, no nothing, just made a bad choice on Friday. So, you know, our motor squad, they called it Felony Friday because this individual, they were traveling at a high rate of speed. In our traffic, they actually were driving in the shoulder, and our motor unit did activate their lights and siren, and the vehicle took off, so they were evading. Our motor unit then exited an off-ramp and saw the vehicle sitting in a parking lot, thinking that they were going to wait it out. And so that individual was arrested for reckless driving on top of some other, and evading and other charges. But you know what really was the kicker about this call? And then we wanted to, this is why we're highlighting, because this, unfortunately, that happens quite often. But the reason we wanted to post this is because this person made a bad choice that day. Doesn't mean they're a bad person. But the choice they made actually almost took a life of another trooper. So as they were driving in a reckless manner, and they were driving in the shoulder at over 100 miles an hour, the trooper that was following behind, it was Trooper Thayer, he actually stopped, and he like his heart stopped because he knew his partner was just up ahead in that shoulder conducting a traffic stop, and he thought for a second that car was going to take out his partner. And then when he moved back into traffic, you know, it was just like, oh my God, I understand you don't want to all over speeding, like you would have just got a misdemeanor civil, you know, traffic citation, and you almost just killed somebody for what? And the individual, you know, he said, I don't know why I was speeding, I wasn't thinking, blah blah. But look, now he had to go to jail. His car's towed. But actually, that's a good thing, because that's the best outcome. Because he could have almost just killed someone, along with our motoring public or himself, and he had his loved one in the vehicle. And it's just, I mean, it's a whole thing of what could have happened. And it's like, luckily that didn't happen. But that's why this is not the right word, but a lesson needed to be taught to an extent here, because what could have happened could have had fatal consequences, and that's not okay.
I think that it leads into a good point too. If the cops try and stop you, pull over to the right. Right. This, obviously, the trooper you're saying was up on the left-hand side.
I believe so.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. Is pull over to the right. I mean,
we talked about that.
Yeah. It's just not worth it. Like, this is, you get a ticket, whatever. You go to jail, whatever, man. You can be out in a couple of days. It's not worth it. It's not worth your life, your family's life. If you kill anyone, it's what? Mandatory 5 to 20 in jail? Something like that for
when they make the conscious effort, people speed all the time. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing that we could sit here till we're blue in the face 1,000 times over, and people are still going to speed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when we drive in the reckless manner for nothing, to drive on a shoulder, you know, left shoulder, right shoulder, you know, like the thing is this, that obviously it's a beautiful car. Like, you know what I mean? So and so, like you said, you know, the gentleman was a nice person, and you know, and all that. And in your profession, you see nice people all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That you would look at and you'd be like, "There's no way this guy is on parole or probation," right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
But it happens.
It does.
Right? And so, unfortunately, sometimes elder people make bad decisions, and sometimes young people do. So.
It's all about choice, right?
It's all about the choice. And so, you know, we have to stop these people from doing these things in a reckless manner, because I feel just like you, like, thank goodness he only went to jail, right?
Correct.
Like, thank goodness he only had his car towed, right? And so... I also look at it like, you know, when you're wrong, like, you can't outrun the radio.
No.
Right? And, like, when they talk about good fortune and things like that, like, there's also, when you're doing bad, like, the universe knows it. And he directs karma, and he's like, this is where the person is.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So thank goodness the motorcycle officer, right, is okay.
Yep.
And
it was actually Trooper Volwinkle, the one you've met.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was him who was on the shoulder. Like, see, that would have been a direct connection to you. Like, if something would have happened, you would have felt that. I mean, you would have felt it regardless, but you know him personally.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. For what? Like, for what? Right?
For what?
For like 10 minutes, or like you said, he went I was just going to curse there for a minute. he went and sat in a parking lot,
Yeah.
so he's obviously not saving any time.
Yeah, and he even said he was like, I don't know why I did that. He instantly regretted everything, and he was, super cooperative with our troopers and
course.
stuff. And that's why we're not trying to say he's a bad person or anything like
Of course,
that.
just made
but
a bad
oh my
choice.
goodness, what could have happened because of those actions is what we needed to focus on.
Yeah.
So it's all about
100%.
choice.
All right, let's give a shout out to the SST towing, right? You know what I'm saying? We love those guys, right?
Looked like they did a good job.
Yeah, 100%. You know what I mean? Thank you. All right, now we're going to look at this camera, and then we're just going to wave. You ready?
All right.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Now waves. I see you later.
See
See
ya.
you later.